In this Best Junglers episode, we are going to be having a look at the best junglers for every style of jungling for every single rank. It's all very well having a meta tier list which shows you which champions are strong, but if you have a particular playstyle and you're looking for the strongest in that playstyle to succeed and to climb, but it isn't exactly, a meta jungler, then you're not always going to find what you're looking for. So we'll do all the farming junglers for every single rank bracket, we'll do the ganking and pressure junglers for every single rank bracket, and then we will have a cheeky look at the low econ Herbivore junglers just as a finisher. And don't forget, you can join up on Virkayu.gg to get access to all of the video courses for your chosen MMR, the coaching VOD library, a free weekly video provided by me privately, a full coaching VOD library, as well as access to the private Virkayu jungle Discord. Head to Virkayu.gg or click the link below to head to your jungle paradise. And first up, we are having the farming junglers in low MMR, and we are starting off with Nocturne. We have to, because this champion is almost a hidden OP. Except it's not really that hidden when Agurant's using him a little bit, but a lot of people say and have said, look, once you get to Diamond, you stagnate, you can't use him. That's not true at all. What's cool about it is that you can also use it in low MMR and just keep climbing with him. You can stick the whole journey on the back of Nocturne. Why? Because he sequences well. He's got a great ultimate. He can split push. He's a decent duelist, a fast farmist, a good macroist, and a dominating teamfight or assassinist, depending on what you want him to be. He is not amazing at anything, but he's good at everything. And when you add in the lethality Axiomark assassin spike or the typical Strikebreaker black flavor GA spike, you've got the choice of assassin or fighter. Next up, I'm gonna slap in here the Lilia, because even though she's, kind of one of those really strong champions in certain hands in high elo, like on bow, in general, she's just not that great, because obviously she's great at skirmishing and farming, but most people are terrible at spacing her spells and her positioning and hitting that true damage sweet spot on Q. They don't quite know when to actually use her spells, and obviously that leads to a bit of a disconnect. However, in low MMR, you can be quite relaxed. Full clear, sequence, play around your ultimate, make sure you are skirmishing appropriately, keeping your spacing with those movement speed stacks. He has quite a relaxed game control style that can also dominate with her ultimate sleep ability, those team fights that you need to control in low elo. And if you prefer a bit more of a hybrid between this really dynamic farming Lilia as well as the fisting of the Nocturne, go Diana. They just buffed her again. There's an amazing Korean one trick that I've made a video about on the gameplay channel to showcase it does work here as well. And yes, remember, all of these picks are so that you can climb with the champion to your chosen rank and you don't have to give them up, with the exception of one or two, which we'll discuss. But I've just covered Diana's combos in the combo video that I released a few weeks ago. And when you understand the outplay potential that she has in tight situations, and of course you're focusing on that full sequence, gank around your ultimate, and controlling the objectives, again, it's a relaxing champion for low elo to get gold, to get experience at low risk. When you have low risk and low elo, you're efficient. When you're efficient, you beat the enemy junglers because they're all inefficient. Next, we have to talk about Kayn, because Kayn not only is very, very good in general, currently Duskblade, Axiomark, Blue Kayn is insane, Rast is always good, but he gives you that aspect of, yes, this is a farming jungler who wants high econ from his camps, but it's also someone that wants to weave in those ganks to get the orbs. He needs transform. So if you think about Kayn as a farming jungler, cool, that's great. However, he's also just as much a skirmishing jungler, much like the Lilia. So while you're forced into this farming baseline, make sure you're ganking before and after your sequences around your level 6, and definitely going for good trades to get your orb form. If you do that, this champion is really unstoppable. There's nothing stopping you from climbing. After that, we have to talk about Fiddlesticks, because Fiddlesticks is one of these one-trick, actually, you know what, he's just the best one-trick champion in the game. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I have said it, I'm gonna keep saying it. He's a bit more like your Lilia than your Kayn's, Nocturnes, and Dianas, in that you're just gonna sequence, play around your ultimate, you're not gonna go dueling for scuttles, you're gonna take objectives, map control, they group up mid lane, you ult them, pentakill, pentagram, push and end. All you have to get used to is his clear technique, optimizing that to be as fast as possible, 259, get it down, and then don't get drawn into bad fights. Again, low risk plays, get the guaranteed golden experience from your cams, play around critical ultimate timers, don't try and chase people down like you're a Hecarim, you're not. So here we have Udyr, and I've been coaching a lot of them lately, and you might have seen on my Twitter this kind of screenshot right here. 5 levels up. That's from a live coaching session where we got this guy 5 levels up. When you understand macro pressure, jungle pressure, farming pressure, map control, counter jungling, all of these intangible things that don't revolve around ganking at all, you don't really need a high KP to turbo smurf a game. I've put here the AD focus build because I love that at the moment for this kind of macro farming control play, especially in the mid MMRs. And Udyr, who plays with speed, efficiency, and understands this kind of pressure game, is always going to be one that dominates. And again, I've coached a lot of it in the coaching VOD library in the private Discord. We've got some Udyr savants Come and learn, come and become the best at this, because honestly, it's absolutely free diamond. Now we jump up to the high MMR bracket, which basically here just means if you're Diamond Plus and you want to play it in Master Plus Challenge at Grandmaster, this is what you use. And obviously, Karfist, he does what I teach the mid MMRs to do on Udyr, except he does it as an AP champion who loves to globally smite people. And he has the benefit of taking an exhaust, despite being low range, has the power with ISO Qs to destroy and dismantle anyone who wants to fight him. And once that sequencing ramps up after a very early phase compared to everybody else, you have such a lot of downtime between those camp respawns, objectives, invades, tower dives, ganks, it all just falls into place. And as we move over to Graves, remember, I just put the Diamond Sigil because if you want to be Master, you've got to play like a Master player. So you've got to play the champions that work for Master. That's why it's a Diamond Plus ranking-based system in this video. But we all know there's a big-ass difference between a Diamond Graves and a Challenger Graves. We all know this. However, that's not because there's a lack of skill necessarily mechanically. It's because of the application of jungle pressure. Understanding that farming with Graves is one of his playstyles. We're going to see Graves again later in this video. Graves is really, and I hate to use a car reviewer terminology, the Jekyll and Hyde of jungle. You need him to farm, sequence, counter jungle, map control, split push, and not really interact until later on. He will do that. But he's also going to do a hell of a lot, and I'll explain that later in the video. So next up we have Evelynn. Everyone thinks Evelyn's easy because camouflage and picking ADCs requires no skill. Go ahead and do it then. Do it. Why aren't you Master tier? Because she's that strong. If you want to Evelynn, you're not losing because you can't take turrets. I'm the one that says that. I say you can't take turrets. So what can we do instead? And again, once you have Lichbane and Deathcap, you can't actually do that, so that's an excuse. But I don't want Lichbane. I want Deathcap to one-shot people. So you get numbers advantages. You get kill conversion ratio, kills into objectives. If you get kills and you don't go into objectives, you're not really using Evelynn for what she's for. She's not easy to play. But once you finally sequence and farm and get that 6, once you finally sequence and position to use your ultimate, there are very few champions that provide this kind of question mark pressure on the map from the farming position, and it's exactly the kind of stuff you want to 1v9 and carry games. So let's jump on over to the ganking pressure junglers for low elo. This means basically that you're looking to gank, but you can also invade. You're looking to be active. You can full sequence, but you're not necessarily going to AFK farm. You want to be dynamic. This is much more difficult for lower elo players, but Jarvan is just the quintessential. He is the king, the prince, the prestige, the Agura and savant. You can invade, you can cheese, you can 3-quadrant, you can full clear, you can build lethality, you can build Gore Drinker, you can build the Stone Blade, you can build the Dusk Blade. Remember the words, never stop moving. We are active, we are farming, we are counter jungling, we're getting in enemy jungler's face. There's a farming jungler against you from the previous section, kill them, take their shit. There's a bot lane with no flash and it's a Jinx, dive that sucker underneath her tower. You have to think like this, and in low MMR, Jarvan's not too complicated but does provide a lot of flexibility to be able to do that. And you might not have expected the Poppy, but I'ma put Poppy here. Is she easy? Yeah, she kinda is, but at the same time she has some interesting skill ceilings that I think will be interesting for your lower MMR players. Something that you can use to get better at and then again use as you get to gold, platinum, emerald, and then up to diamond. Read her abilities. Remember, Q1 does percentage max HP damage. Q2 also does percentage max HP damage. Remember with your W, there's a passive. The lower in HP you get, the more resistances you have. She's got a fuller kit that's easier to use, but because people don't read what it does, they don't really maximize her kit. So you can stay in fights longer, do a lot more damage than you think, build in decent ways. And again, don't fall clear, please. 3 camp, get into some action. Do the red quadrant, get into some action. Can you invade and kill Kha'Zixes? You actually kind of can sometimes. I've covered that in one of the courses. Do it. And then if you are Rammus, you simply say, okay, and you go ahead and you do that as well. However, he will fall off in Diamond Plus. I do not recommend him for that MMR range, but it will teach you the fundamentals of ganking pressure again. So if you're struggling to get into this ganking mentality and you feel like farming isn't for you and you want to be more active, start with Rammus, get a feel for what happens when you overgank, undergank, and when you don't get the econs from said ganks. The fundamentals, this hedgehog armadillo thing will teach it to you well. Now, once we get into the gold, platinum, emerald ranges, we want diamond. We need a bit more panache and expertise and serious gaming. So we're gonna go with Rek'Sai. S tier broken, keeps getting nerfed, still S tier broken, keeps getting nerfed, still S tier broken. I think Riot reworked her too well, but hey, that's great because it means you have something that not only scales a little better into the late game, even with a Q nerf, it's the kind of champion that rewards you for applying a giga amount of pressure. Paying attention to vision pathing, you start to become really good at noticing where wards are and how to circumvent them. That's the kind of shit you need to become a better jungler. It also teaches you with the current build path that hey, I can peel if necessary, but I'm still a great diver and disruptor for the backline ADC, who may or may not hate me at the end of the game. But for Kha'Zix, we're not talking as much about the ganking pressure because of course you can still full clear and so on. We are focused on the absolute real ability to invade, to one-on-one, to deny through pressure, and to wait for the perfect moment to strike. A lot of Kazakhs are impatient. Do not be, my friends. Relax. Yes, you're drooling. Yes, you're naked, but it's okay because you're gonna unmake the enemy jungler very easily. So pick your spots, pick your lanes to gank, use a lane gank, get your evolves going, and remember your nice fluid combos are covered in the tips and tricks in the previous video last week. I'll leave a link in the description below for that. Treat Kha'Zix way less as a ganker and an invader purely. He is a total hunter. What is necessary can be accomplished. And of course, if you're a Gurren, you can do your gore drinker builds and be a bit more of a fighter, but for the rest of you, don't recommend it. Go assassin, one-shot squishies, get into the backline access, and remember, when you have that lead versus enemy jungler, please live in their jungle. Don't let them get stuff for free, annihilate them, embarrass them, and make them feel sad. Next up, we have BelVeth, who again, now less like the ganking, less like the slow predatorial prey of the Kha'Zix, but more like the hyper-aggressive invading. So, for BelVeth, if you're not 3-camp ganking, you're doing it wrong. If you're not 3-camp invading, you're doing it wrong. Can you full clear? Yes, but please don't. Look to be active the whole time. The whole pure thing about BelVeth is pressure, pressure, pressure. Into denial for the enemy jungler, into stealing their camps, killing them into the lane ganks, into getting the truest of true forms from the Herald, and then using absolute macro god fish swarms to push into their base and end super fast. And that's why we put this champion here in the mid MMR, because as you're going up through Platinum, through Emerald, and into Diamond, this concept of high pressure, macro pressure, it has to be able to be applied. You have to learn it because you're not getting through Diamond if you don't do it. And now that you're in Diamond and you want to apply the most pressure possible in all phases of the game, it's gonna be Kindred #1. Yeah, they've been nerfed, but again, doesn't really do anything. Still one of the best champions in the game, and honestly, always was, always will be, and always will have been. That's because it is the absolute quintessential, I'm going to remove the enemy jungler from level 3. I'm going to get 4 marks so quickly while you can do nothing else. Now I have a range advantage that you can never match. Not that you could match it anyway. And obviously with that range component, when you actually get the, the 2 item spikes, the Trinity Force, the Kraken Slayer, what is actually going to get on you to kill you? Nothing. Not if the Kindred's good. The difference between a regular Kindred player who gets high elo very easily right now and your typical Kindred player who's still struggling to really get those, trains going is that they stop applying pressure at some point. They stop ganking, they stop invading. They don't remember what they are, which is a more predatorial version of Kha'Zix with range. And you're an assassin, and you're a marksman, and you rinse turrets with range. It's just such a difficult champion to deal with. Oh look, it's Graves again. You know why? Because I would put Rengar here and say, hey, look at the pressure cat. But he's honestly being nerfed quite a bit himself. The itemization keeps shifting, and while he's great on main and one-trick hands, for general populace at the moment, I don't really want to recommend it at all. And honestly, while I don't like Graves for your sort of gold MMR and plat MMR, he can be used, and in high elo, he's just Astra broken. Multiple build variations. Yes, he can farm it up, and as I said, Jekyll and Hyde, now we're talking about the invade and pressure aspect, which he can do as well. 3-quadrant into an invade, into a gank, into whatever the hell he wants to do. The damage profile too big, the Ghostblade build absolutely huge. I prefer that personally over the Duskblade build, which is why I've put it here. I'm teaching an absolute boatload or cigar load of Graves and coaching at the moment because everyone wants to learn this champion because they see what he can do and what he can't do, which is nothing, because he can do everything. But he's not that easy to execute. The mechanical flow is very important. The jungle decisions need to be good. And so he truly rewards those junglers that are not only great at Graves, but great at that pressure jungling and understanding the jungle at a high level. And obviously that's where we're going to bring in the Nidalee. We have a challenger one-trick Nidalee in the private Discord who basically does these high-level streams for us as well. You can see what happens when someone's an amazing one-trick on this champion. When they understand jungle oppression at the highest level. When they understand that pressure doesn't just mean ganking, it doesn't just mean invading, it means everything. Farming tempo, timing tempo, whatever it means to have a lead over the enemy jungler, Nidalee can instill it into you, or you instill it into Nidalee, depending on your point of view. But she is the hardest jungler in the game, the queen of total jungling control, and the highest pressure, highest farming, highest ganking, invading, and macro swooping jungler you can have to close by 20 minutes. Now, when we are going to go to the other side of the coin, because that was a lot of pressure actually, we're going to talk about Rel. Low Econ Herbivore junglers, which means we are here purely to enable the whims of our team, to protect our ADC from themselves, to help Bambi not die. Or if we have a team that wants to engage and go in, we are here to pull the trigger when they don't recognize someone has stepped out of position. And you do that through 3-camp ganking. You don't really care about your farm. You don't care about invading and pressure in that sense. You care about supporting the win con. If you need to rotate to support your win con to protect them from a gank, you do it, even at the cost and expense of your own econ. Unlike most other champions on this list, where you kind of want to focus on yourself just as much, and that focus on the jungle denial. Here, you don't care about jungle denial. You care about just enabling whoever is the best on your team. And second for that is obviously going to be Ivan. Technically, he's first, but everything I just said about Rel applies to him as well. He just full clears a hell of a lot faster than her. He and Daisy obviously do it better with the shield spam and everything like that, so we're not going to talk about him as much, but it was just great to put Rel in this video. And finally, obviously it's going to be Maokai. They've nerfed his farming speed a little bit. He had too much ganking prowess, too much team fighting and peel prowess for how quickly he was farming, but he's still here. These are probably, in my opinion, the best 3 low econ Herbivore junglers. If you're looking to play Flax, Clash, or just play with a duo who's a hyper carry, play these 3, play around them, and you'll just win every game, honestly. But what's the one principle that binds all of these junglers together that all of us can learn? Well, that's the video on your screen right now.